They feel as though the moment has been ruined by people taking selfies and going live on TikTok.
But of course, thousands of mourners have been pouring into St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respects to Pope Francis, whose body is now lying in state ahead of his funeral.
Well, the Basilica remained open past its normal hours yesterday to accommodate the crowds and the long queues of mourners.
GB News' Ellie Costello is still in Rome for us. Ellie, what more can you tell us?
Yes, good morning to you, Nana and Stephen. And St. Peter's Basilica had to extend their opening hours last night. It actually didn't shut until 5 o'clock this morning, where the doors were shut for just 2 hours before they opened again at 7 a.m. local time. I think even the Vatican has been struck by the sheer demand, the thousands of people, the tourists, the pilgrims who wish to come and pay their respects to the late Pope Francis. In fact, 19,500 people made their way through the doors of St. Peter's Basilica in the first 8 hours yesterday. So that just gives you a sense of the number of people who wish to come and say their final goodbyes. But we have been hearing reports this morning, Stephen and Nana, of people inside St. Peter's Basilica who are going live on TikTok and taking selfies with the corpse of the late Pope Francis. So not everybody as being as respectful as is demanded in this situation. Obviously upsetting pilgrims who see this St. Peter's Basilica behind me as one of the holiest sites in their Catholic faith.
No, indeed. OK, Ellie, back to you a little bit later on. For now, thank you. The idea of streaming live from seeing... I mean, come on. Who would do that?
But look, he had his coffin angled so people could see him. He would have known the environment that he is in terms of social media. Things have changed. We don't behave the way we did many years ago. People have evolved and the way they communicate is in this way. So I don't... As long as it's respectful and you're not denigrating something like that whilst you're in this footage, then I think it's OK.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me.
You know, obviously make judgments on where...
If someone did that at a funeral of a loved one of mine, I'd be quite upset, I think. And
it's
that's
interesting.
basically what it is.
It's interesting because recently I went to a funeral and somebody wanted to take a little picture and, film a bit of parts of it, and some people got very upset about that. And it wasn't, it wasn't gratuitous or out of the way. It was just a little memory for that person. And, other people are up in arms, and it's, well, everyone grieves in a different way.
Well, they do, but I think we're a bit more old-fashioned on these things. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Fashioned, maybe. Old, yes.
Old. Definitely old.
GB News' Ellie Costello is still in Rome for us. Good morning, Ellie.
Good morning to you, Stephen and Nana. And yes, as you say, St. Peter's Basilica had to extend their opening hours to try and demand of pilgrims and tourists that were flooding in, hoping to pay their last respects to Pope Francis. We actually know in the past 23 hours since St. Peter's Basilica was open to the public that almost 50,000 people have made their way through those doors. One of those people being the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and we've seen pictures of her bowing her head in prayer, looking quite emotional as she pays her respects to the late pontiff. And the two had a very close working relationship. They were at press conferences together in Italy talking about the falling birth rate in this country, something they were clearly united on, not so united on their thoughts on migration. But the two did have a close friendship, with Giorgia Meloni even visiting him in hospital during that 5-week stay that Pope Francis had in February and March of this year. So very respectful scenes of reverence, as you would expect from Giorgia Meloni. But unfortunately, not everybody has had that same level of respect as they have seen Pope Francis lying in state. We've seen people taking selfies, smiling in photos that they are taking of the Pope in his open casket. There is no ban on photography inside St. Peter's Basilica, so there have even been priests and nuns taking pictures of the corpse of Pope Francis, you'd imagine for their own personal memories. There is a ban on selfie sticks, and there are security guards in there asking people to put away their selfie sticks. But of course, with the thousands of people that are flooding in, that is very difficult to police. But it's very upsetting for pilgrims and devout Catholics to have spent up to 8 hours queuing to pay their final respects, and they feel as though the moment has been ruined by people taking selfies and going live on TikTok.
Okay. Ellie, for now, thanks very much indeed. I can understand people being upset by that. I can understand people taking pictures, as strange as it is to take pictures of a body. I can understand doing that. It's the selfies and the streaming, I think, is. And I don't know why, but I think it's a step too far. I
think the streaming, because it's actually kind of interrupting other people's kind of moment, because you're doing something live, you're talking, you're going to stream something, blah, 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 blah. That's a bit much. But I don't have any objection to people taking selfies and photographs and videoing themselves there. But as soon as you start kind of making it into a performance, where you're then going to stream, I think that's just disrupting the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, it all just strikes me as a little bit odd. But then again, we do have pictures and we do have official video from in there, where we do see the body of the Pope, and we all want to see the body of the Pope. And so why would it necessarily be any different if you're in there on your phone?
Well, that's why people have gone there for 8 hours. Listen, I think it's all fine, but the streaming live, like as though you're filming some sort of performance, I think is a bit disrespectful to those around you and, of course, to the Pope, I think.
Yeah, OK.
Well, one of the people in the queue yesterday was a British tourist who was actually here in St. Peter's Square for Pope Francis's final public appearance at Easter Mass on Sunday, and he reflected with me on the late Pope's papacy.
Attended the Sunday Mass, I attended the prayers on Monday. I haven't seen as big crowds yet as of today. As a leader of the Catholic Church and the Catholics, he was phenomenal. I think that he opened up, he spoke a lot about love and how to be more humane to other people. He opened the church to divorcees, to homosexuals, so he revolutionized the church in that way. But on the other hand, in terms of politics, I don't think he fully understood the dynamics of European politics. For instance, like when we take, for example, the war in Ukraine with Putin's invasion, there I believe that he could have had a different approach. He could have tried harder to understand the geopolitical situation. And so from that political side, I think it wasn't a great pontiff, but on the religious side of things, I think it was phenomenal. I think we should continue in this direction. If you think about it, then the church needs to open up more. There's a lot of people who are pushed away because the church is closed, it's very conservative, it rejects various people, you get too many judgmental people. The church has to stop being judgmental. Francis was a pope who wasn't judgmental about other people and how they were, and I think that would be a great pope.